"You're not welcome here anymore, Dad. We need space from your constant interference." "My name is Robert. I'm 73 years old. Been a widower for 6 years now." I was standing on my daughter Jessica's front porch in Phoenix, Arizona, holding wrapped birthday gifts for my two grandchildren when she said those words. The afternoon heat was scorching, but it wasn't hotter than the coldness in her eyes. Behind her stood Marcus, my son-in-law, arms crossed like a security guard. He nodded when Jessica spoke as if they'd rehearsed this moment. "Arthur's just too controlling," he added, his voice flat. "We've talked about this." I looked past them into the house I'd helped them buy 4 years ago. Their living room was filled with expensive furniture where my grandchildren should have been playing with their birthday presents. Instead, the place felt sterile, like a furniture showroom nobody actually lived in. "All right, Jessica," I said, setting the gifts down by their front door. "You have your independence now." Jessica's face twitched. Maybe she expected me to argue, to plead, to make a scene. Marcus probably would have preferred that, would have given them ammunition for later conversations about how unreasonable I was. But I'd learned long ago that the best response to disrespect was dignity. I walked back to my SUV without another word, started the engine, and drove the 20 minutes home to my ranch house on the outskirts of town. The silence in my vehicle was peaceful, not bitter. I had work to do. What Jessica didn't know, what Marcus definitely didn't know, was that I'd been covering their mortgage payments for 4 years. $3,800 every month, automatic transfer from my pension account to Desert Financial Credit Union, plus their property insurance, plus the private school tuition for their gated community. Emergency repairs when their pool pump failed last summer, new HVAC system after it broke down 18 months back, $78,000 total, not counting the monthly mortgage payments. Jessica thought Marcus's marketing job at Phoenix Digital Solutions covered everything. Thought they were self-sufficient, successful, independent. Marcus bragged to his colleagues about their financial stability, about how well he provided for the family. Neither of them had looked closely at their actual expenses versus Marcus's actual salary. They lived comfortably because I made it possible, and they didn't even realize it. If you like stories about family betrayal and how the truth always comes to light, please like this video and subscribe to the channel right now. Every day there are completely new stories, each one more gripping than the last. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the SUV for a moment, watching the sunset paint the Sonoran Desert orange and red. Tomorrow was March 15th. Banks would be open for processing. Time to give my daughter the independence she clearly wanted. Jessica had been my pride for 36 years. Smart kid, graduated with honors from Arizona State University, landed her project management job right out of college. When she married Marcus 6 years ago, I thought I was gaining a son. When they had kids, Emma, now 8, and Tyler 6, I thought my life was complete again after my wife Margaret died. After Margaret's passing, those grandchildren became my anchor. Emma had Margaret's smile. Tyler had my curiosity about how machines worked. I taught him to change batteries in my garage. Showed Emma how to identify desert cacti. We had dinner every other Sunday, spent holidays together, took family trips to Sedona and Flagstaff. Then Marcus started dropping hints. Little comments about how I called too frequently, visited too much, offered too much advice. "Robert means well," he'd tell Jessica when he thought I couldn't hear. "But he treats you like you're still a teenager." Jessica began pulling back gradually. Fewer phone calls, shorter visits. When I'd suggest family activities, Marcus would have already made other plans. When I'd offered to help with house projects, Jessica would say Marcus could handle it himself. The warning signs were there, but I ignored them because I trusted my daughter. 4 years ago, when they were house shopping, Jessica came to me panicked. "Dad, we found the perfect place, but the numbers are tight. The mortgage payment, insurance, the kids' school tuition, it's more than we calculated." I didn't hesitate. "I'll cover the mortgage payments," I told her. "Consider it an early inheritance." Jessica's relief was genuine. Just temporarily until Marcus gets that promotion. But the promotion never came with enough extra money. The mortgage payments kept climbing as interest rates adjusted. The insurance costs rose. The private school increased their tuition twice. Every month, I quietly transferred money to keep their comfortable life running smoothly. I never mentioned it again. Neither did Jessica. Marcus didn't even know about the arrangement. Jessica handled their finances, and Marcus trusted her to manage everything. Over the past year, though, I'd started noticing how they talked about money. Marcus would complain about other couples their age struggling financially. "Thank God Jessica's so good with our budget," he'd say. Jessica would nod, accepting credit for financial stability that existed only because of my monthly support. Last month, Marcus's parents visited from Denver. Over dinner, he bragged about their financial independence. "We're nothing like those couples who have to rely on family bailouts," he announced, looking directly at me. "Jessica and I built this life ourselves." Jessica said nothing to correct him, just smiled and nodded. That night, I went home and reviewed my bank statements. $78,000 in 4 years, plus the monthly mortgage payments. I'd been subsidizing their pride while they slowly pushed me out of their lives. The morning after they kicked me off their porch, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and staring at my phone. Jessica hadn't called to explain. No text message, no follow-up, nothing. She'd dismissed me like a nuisance, then went back inside to celebrate with Marcus and the grandchildren I might never see again. The betrayal wasn't just the rudeness. It was the calculated nature of it. Marcus had been poisoning that well for months, convincing Jessica that I was a burden rather than a blessing. And Jessica had let him do it, maybe even encouraged it while taking my money every single month. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The automatic transfer for March's mortgage payment had already gone through, $3,800, same as always. In my spreadsheet, I tracked every payment I'd made on their behalf. Mortgage payments, insurance premiums, school tuition, emergency repairs. The numbers were staggering. They were living a lie, and they'd convinced themselves the lie was the truth. I called my bank. I need to cancel some automatic transfers, I told the customer service representative. Certainly, Mr. Patterson. Which transfers would you like to cancel? All of them going to Desert Financial Credit Union. Also the transfers to State Farm Insurance and Desert Springs Academy. The woman typed quietly. Those have been running for 48 months. Are you sure you want to cancel them permanently? Permanently. Effective immediately. I hung up and called State Farm Insurance. I need to cancel a homeowner's policy, I told them. Policy number SF892156. Yes, I'm the policy holder and payment source. Mr. Patterson, that policy covers a property owned by Jessica Williams. Are you certain you want to cancel coverage? I'm certain. Cancel it effective April 1st. Next, I called Desert Springs Academy. Same conversation, same result. No more automatic payments from my account to cover their monthly tuition. In 30 minutes, I dismantled the financial foundation of Jessica and Marcus's comfortable life. They had no idea what was coming. I spent the rest of the day organizing paperwork. 4 years of bank statements, payment confirmations, receipts for the pool repair and HVAC replacement. Everything documented, everything legitimate. Jessica wanted independence from her controlling father. Marcus wanted to live their lives without family interference. I was about to give them exactly what they asked for. The mortgage bill would arrive in April. The insurance cancellation notice would follow. The school would start charging late fees when May's tuition didn't arrive. By June, they'd be drowning in expenses they didn't know existed. I walked outside and looked toward Camelback Mountain, purple against the evening sky. Margaret used to say that sometimes the kindest thing you could do for someone was to let them face the consequences of their choices. Jessica was about to learn what independence really cost. 4 weeks into April, my phone rang at 7 o'clock in the morning. Jessica's name on the screen. Dad, I need to talk to you. Her voice sounded strained, but I kept mine calm. What's on your mind, sweetheart? Something's wrong with our mortgage. I got a notice yesterday saying we owe $11,400 in back payments. That's impossible. I've been paying them every month. I sipped my coffee and watched a roadrunner chase a lizard across my backyard. That does sound like a mistake. Have you checked with the bank? I called them yesterday. They say the last payment they received was in March, and that came from some account that's not ours. They won't tell me whose account because of privacy laws, but Dad, I've never missed a payment. Never. That's strange. I think someone might have stolen our identity or something. The guy at the bank was really unhelpful. Just kept saying I need to bring proof of payment if I want to dispute the balance. Do you have proof? Silence on the other end. Well, that's the thing. I thought Marcus was handling the mortgage, but when I asked him about it, he said I was supposed to be handling it. We both thought the other person was paying it. I almost smiled. 4 years of taking my money for granted, and they'd never even questioned where it came from. That's a tough situation, Jessica. Dad, I was wondering, could you maybe loan us the money to pay this? Just until we figure out what happened. $11,400 is more than we have in savings right now. That's a lot of money, sweetheart. I know. But if we don't pay it, we could lose the house. The notice says they'll start foreclosure proceedings in 45 days. I let the silence stretch. Jessica was learning the first lesson about real independence. When crisis hits, you face it alone. Dad, are you there? I'm here. Let me think about it. Think about it? Dad, this is an emergency. Marcus is freaking out. The kids don't understand why we're fighting all the time. I just need help getting through this crisis. Then everything will go back to normal. Back to normal. Back to me paying their bills while Marcus insulted me and Jessica ignored it. You told me yesterday that you needed space from my interference, I said quietly. I figured that included financial space too. That's not Dad. That was just Marcus was having a bad day and Marcus was pretty clear about how he felt. So were you. Look, I'm sorry about yesterday, okay? But this is different. This is about the house, about the kids. You wouldn't let Emma and Tyler lose their home over a family argument, would you? There it was. The manipulation, trying to make me responsible for their crisis, for their children's welfare, for problems they'd created by living beyond their means. Jessica, you're 36 years old. You make good money. You own a beautiful house in a nice neighborhood. Marcus is always talking about how financially responsible you both are. I'm sure you'll figure this out. Dad, please. I'm begging you. Just this once. You're a smart woman, sweetheart. You'll find a solution. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I didn't answer. It rang 15 more times that day. I didn't answer any of the calls. That evening, my neighbor knocked on my door. Robert, there's a man at your front gate. Says he's your son-in-law. Looks pretty upset. I looked through my front window. Marcus's car was parked on the street, and he was pacing by my gate like a caged animal. I opened my front door, but didn't invite him in. Robert, we need to talk. About what? About Jessica's phone calls today. About this mortgage situation. About how you're refusing to help your own family. I'm not refusing anything, Marcus. I'm just not offering. We can't afford $11,400. My job doesn't pay enough to cover everything. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided I was too controlling. His face flushed red. That was about boundaries, Robert. About you being too involved in our business. It wasn't about money. Everything's about money, Marcus. You just never had to think about it before. Marcus's visit was just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, the calls escalated. Jessica, Marcus, even Marcus's mother from Denver. They'd started making calls trying to understand their financial situation, and the truth was slowly emerging. Jessica called me on a Friday evening, her voice hollow. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I want a straight answer. Go ahead. Have you been paying our mortgage? I sat back in my recliner. What makes you ask that? I went to the bank today with 4 years of bank statements. I wanted to prove I'd been paying the mortgage myself. But when I looked at my account history, there's no record of mortgage payments. Not for 4 years. Interesting. Dad, the clerk told me the payments came from an account belonging to Robert Patterson. That's you, isn't it? Could be. Could be? Dad, this isn't a game. Have you been paying our mortgage or not? I was quiet for a long moment, letting her work through the implications. Yes, Jessica. I've been paying your mortgage for 4 years. 4 years? Jesus Christ, Dad. 4 years. Also, your homeowner's insurance and the kids' school tuition. And I paid for your pool repair and HVAC replacement. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Jessica, you still there? How much? Her voice was barely a whisper. How much what? How much money have you spent on us? I pulled up my spreadsheet. $78,000 in one-time expenses plus $3,800 every month for 48 months. That's another $180,200. $260,400 plus change. Oh my God. Oh my God. Marcus doesn't know. He has no idea. He thinks we've been paying for everything ourselves. I figured as much. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you say anything? You never asked. You seemed happy taking credit for financial responsibility you didn't actually have. Another long silence. Dad, I need to understand something. Why did you stop? Why now? You told me I wasn't welcome in your family anymore. You said you needed space. I gave you what you asked for. But the house, we could lose everything. That's between you and Marcus now. Dad, please. I'm sorry about yesterday. Marcus was stressed about work, and he took it out on you. It wasn't personal. It felt personal when you agreed with him. I was trying to keep the peace. You know how Marcus gets when he's upset. There it was. Jessica had thrown me under the bus to avoid conflict with her husband, and now she expected me to bail her out of the consequences. Jessica, let me ask you something. In 4 years of receiving my financial help, how many times did you call to thank me? How many times did you acknowledge what I was doing for your family? I thought it was temporary. You said it was like an early inheritance. And when it became permanent, you never questioned where the money was coming from. You never wondered how Marcus's salary could possibly cover a $3,800 monthly mortgage payment. I trusted you to tell me if there was a problem. The problem was that you and Marcus were living a lie. And when I tried to stay involved in your lives, Marcus convinced you I was the problem. So this is revenge. You're going to let us lose our house because your feelings got hurt. This isn't revenge, sweetheart. This is reality. You wanted independence from your controlling father. Now you have it. The line went quiet. When Jessica spoke again, her voice was different, smaller. What am I supposed to tell Marcus? You could start with the truth. The next morning, Saturday, my phone rang at 8 o'clock a.m. Marcus's number. Robert, Jessica told me everything. Good morning to you too, Marcus. Don't you dare act casual about this. You've been lying to us for 4 years. I poured myself a cup of coffee and walked out to my back patio. The desert morning was crisp, peaceful. Marcus, you're upset. I understand that. Upset? I'm furious. Do you have any idea what this means? We can't afford this house without your help. We never could. I know, You've known all along that we were living beyond our means, and you just let us believe we were successful. You seem to enjoy believing it. That's not the point. The point is, you've put us in an impossible situation. We can't make these payments on my salary alone. Then maybe you shouldn't have bought a house you couldn't afford. We wouldn't have bought it if you hadn't offered to help. I offered to help temporarily. You made it permanent by never asking questions. Marcus was quiet for a moment, and I could hear him breathing heavily. Robert, we need to work this out. For the children's sake. What exactly are you proposing? You start paying the mortgage again. We'll pay you back when we can. When will that be? I don't know. Maybe I can get a promotion, or Jessica can go back to work full-time, or we can refinance the house. Those are all maybes, Marcus. So what? You're just gonna let Emma and Tyler lose their home? Emma and Tyler have parents who are responsible for providing them with a home they can afford. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. For 4 years, you've lived in a house you couldn't afford, celebrated financial success you didn't earn, and looked down on other families who needed help from relatives. Now you want me to continue subsidizing that lifestyle after you told me I wasn't welcome in your family. Marcus said you're angry about yesterday. I'm not angry, Marcus. I'm done. Done with what? Done being taken for granted. Done being treated like a nuisance while you spend my money. Done watching you raise my grandchildren to think their grandfather is too controlling to include in family celebrations. He was quiet now. Marcus, answer me honestly. If I hadn't stopped the payments, would you ever have acknowledged what I was doing for you? Would you ever have thanked me? Would you ever have included me in financial decisions about money I was providing? The silence stretched long enough to be its own answer. We can't lose this house, he finally said. Then you'd better figure out how to pay for it. The kids will have to change schools, leave their friends. We'll have to move somewhere smaller, cheaper. That's what responsible financial planning looks like. Jessica's going to blame me for this. She's going to say I drove you away. Jessica's a grown woman. She can take responsibility for her own choices. Please, Robert, I'm begging you. Just give us time to figure this out. You've had 4 years to figure it out. Time's up. I hung up and turned off my phone. Later that afternoon, I drove to the bank and opened a new savings account. I transferred the money I'd been spending on Jessica's house, $3,800 per month, into an account earmarked for the European river cruise I'd been wanting to take. Margaret and I had always planned to travel more after retirement. Time to honor that promise to her memory. 3 weeks later, Jessica called from Marcus's phone. When I answered, I could hear both of them in the background, along with what sounded like Emma crying. Dad, they're here? The sheriff's deputies. They're posting foreclosure notices on our door. I'm sorry to hear that, sweetheart. Dad, you have to help us, please. We've got 30 days to pay everything, or we lose the house. How much do you owe? $19,000 now. The penalties and interest keep adding up. Marcus grabbed the phone. Robert, the neighbors are all outside watching. Emma asked me why the police are at our house. I don't know what to tell her. Tell her the truth. What truth? That her grandfather is letting us lose our home? Tell her that her parents made financial decisions they couldn't afford, and now they're facing the consequences. Jessica took the phone back. Dad, I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll make Marcus apologize. We'll have dinner every Sunday again. Whatever you want. Jessica, you don't understand. This isn't about apologies or family dinners. This is about respect. For 4 years, you took my money while Marcus convinced you I was a problem in your lives. You chose his comfort over my dignity. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices. Every month when that mortgage bill didn't come to your house, you chose not to ask questions. Every time Marcus complained about me, you chose to agree with him instead of defending me. Every holiday when you gradually excluded me, you chose your husband's preferences over your father's feelings. So now you're choosing money over your grandchildren? I'm choosing self-respect over enabling people who took me for granted. The line went quiet except for Emma's crying in the background. Please, Dad. Good luck, Jessica. I hope you figure it out. I hung up and blocked both their numbers. 7 months later, my neighbor mentioned seeing a moving truck at Jessica's house. I drove by that afternoon and watched them loading furniture. The house already had a sold sign in the front yard. Jessica saw me parked across the street. She walked over to my SUV looking 20 years older than when I'd last seen her. Jessica, we're moving to an apartment complex near Marcus's parents in Denver. The kids are upset about changing schools. I'm sorry it came to that. Are you? I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. The stress had carved lines around her eyes, but there was something else there too. Something that might have been understanding. Yes, Jessica, I'm sorry you had to learn this lesson the hard way. But I'm not sorry I stopped enabling you. Marcus's parents won't help us. They're furious that we lost the house. Marcus told them it was your fault, but his dad looked at our finances and figured out we'd been living beyond our means for years. How's Marcus handling that? Not well. He blames me for alienating you. Says if I'd stood up to him about that day, none of this would have happened. Would you have? Jessica was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. That's honest. I'm sorry, Dad, for all of it. For taking your money without acknowledging it. For letting Marcus push you away. For choosing the easy path instead of the right one. I accept your apology. Does that mean you forgive me? It means I forgive you, sweetheart. It doesn't mean I'm going to bail you out of the consequences. I drove home to start packing for my cruise to Europe. Jessica and Marcus's marriage crumbled under the financial pressure and mutual blame. Within 20 months of losing the house, Jessica filed for divorce after discovering Marcus had taken out high-interest loans to try maintaining their lifestyle, destroying their credit completely. She moved back in with Marcus's parents, who refused to help with childcare after learning about years of financial irresponsibility masked by their bragging about independence. Marcus was forced to take a second job driving for a delivery service on weekends, working 75 hours a week just to afford child support and rent for a one-bedroom apartment. The children spent holidays shuttling between their father's cramped apartment and their mother's childhood bedroom, asking constantly when they could go home to their real house. Sometimes the most valuable lesson a father can teach is that respect, once lost, cannot be bought back with apologies, and that true family bonds are built on honesty, not hidden subsidies. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and leave a comment letting me know what you think. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts about new stories like this one. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.